Are you from the United States and you're wondering what is life in Costa Rica really like? You might have been here on vacation at a resort, but you ask yourself, is living in Costa Rica really this good? Well, stay tuned to the end because I have some surprises that may make you want to slow your roll, hold your horses, before deciding to live in this great country. One of my main purposes of talking to you every week is to connect the nations, to let you know that people are people. You know, people want to have love, have better for their kids, and there's a lot of similarities. But in this video, we're going to be talking about some differences that you should know about Costa Rica. So first of all, housing. Housing is different. Now, you can find United States type looking houses in Costa Rica, but normally it's not the common thing you're going to see. And you might pay a premium because it was probably built by somebody from the United States. But you gotta remember, we're in a different climate. And while United States, depending on where you're living at, it has like 4 seasons. And you know, half of that is cold. And so the other half is hot, and so you're always trying to build your houses to accommodate that the fact that the seasons are changing. Central air, central heat, yeah, probably not a thing. I mean, you could probably find central air. I haven't seen it, and yeah, even though it could be here. What you normally find is nothing for heat, of course, but if you do have air conditioning in your house, it's generally, localized to a room. When you're living in Costa Rica, and let me be clear, Costa Rica has a lot of microclimates, and just to oversimplify it, it means there's just a lot of different climates. Now, none of them have snow. But you'll be in climates that are, humid or hot or more fresh than others. Maybe it rains a lot more. And you'll have to figure that out, when you're looking to live here. But living here, and I'll speak on Gracia first because I spent the most time there, and I do love Gracia. You generally don't find air conditioner, for example, in your house. Because if you want someplace cooler, just go down the street, live a little higher up in the mountains, and it's cooler. You don't need to pay electric bills or anything like that. Now, I have seen and had neighbors that had air conditioners, but they only had air conditioners in their rooms. The rest of the time, you just keep the doors and the windows open. And I would say this takes some getting used to, but now I spent a lot of time, visiting different beaches and going on vacations. That's the one beautiful thing about living in Costa Rica is that my vacation no longer requires a plane ticket. It requires, at minimum, a bus ticket. What you generally find on any given beach is that they will have air conditioners, especially more in the humid climates. Now, continuing with housing, the next surprise that you may find out is there's no hot water. Well, this is not exactly true, but generally there's not hot water running through your house. Now, it is common to have places with hot water, but it's not uncommon to not have hot water. So when you're looking around from different places, you have to ask this question because in the United States, it's just a given. Every single house has got hot water running through it. That's just normal. And it makes sense because you're going to need that to stay warm in the wintertime. Who wants to take cold anything in the wintertime? But when you're near or in a hot climate, hot water is honestly not a necessity, because when the water comes through, depending on where you're at, the water will kind of come out warm. A lot of times. If you're where I'm at, like in Gracia, there's going to be generally what we call a suicide shower, where the electric or the water is really only given to the shower. Now, I did previously live in a house that had hot water, but again, in the United States, you have gas pipes coming from the street and things like that. Normally, you're dealing with propane, a propane tank system that's hooked up somewhere, and it's fueling the propane that's needed to heat the water throughout your house. Or the other option is electricity. There's generally a small electric box, and it's heating the water as it goes through the house in certain places that is needed. But it is not a given. And the last one that I wanted to tack onto housing, and then there could be more, but it's gas. There's not gas connected to your house. While I did just talk about hot water, but think about it, if you've got a gas stove, you're also going to need, a propane tank to actually give you that. Now, I had gas stove, gas dryer, and of course, like I said, hot water. In my previous house, my propane tank was on the outside, so I was changing my medium size. They do come pretty big, so medium is relative. I was changing that out every 3 months. Now, I use electric for everything. We're going to zoom out a little bit. Talked about housing and some of the things in the housing. Now, the other thing that may surprise you is your neighborhood standard. In the United States, you're probably familiar with going down a neighborhood or even living in a neighborhood where the houses actually have a pattern. Even if they're not quite exactly the same, they're going to be, a 2-story, maybe a 1-story, but you're not going to find a huge 5-story mansion in the mix. But here in Costa Rica, you might be surprised that it doesn't quite work that way. Normally what happens here is people buy lots. They'll buy the lots, and even if they don't have the money, they've only had enough money for the lot, they'll buy the lot and it'll sit there. But let's go with person A and person B. If person A only has enough money to build a shack, then they build a shack. If person B has enough money to build a mansion, they build a mansion. And what happens is you start getting this mosh posh of different looking houses. Now, this can change if you're in what they call a condominium, where they do make certain type of rules. Normally, when you're just driving down the street or if you're looking through different neighborhoods, your houses are going to range depending on who architected them. In that same vein, let's talk about zoning. And what you'll find is you'll see, housing, business. And again, that's generally not the model that we have coming from the United States. It's, this area is designated for commercial real estate. This is going to be all your businesses, all the stores are going to be lumped in one place, and you're going to know where your stores are. In Costa Rica, it's, again, different. And you may find that shocking, but it honestly may be pleasantly shocking. You may find your favorite restaurant right, down the street from you. Now, again, I hope that when I'm telling you these things, just because it's different doesn't mean that it's wrong. It's just different. And it's something that you're going to have to get used to, look out for, or just even adjust to. When you see that, hopefully you'll find there's a lot of beauty in differences. Let's continue. Now, this one, honestly, I must warn you about. If you see this sign, be aware if your house is on the same street, you're going to experience a lot of noise. You should be aware that big trucks will be driving on your street, and they can be noisy. Unlike the United States, where they're not allowed to use the J brakes, which is that, loud sounding brake, outside. They're only allowed to use that outside in the city. In Costa Rica, they can use that inside the city. I will add one more point about noise, and it doesn't matter if that sign is there or not. You can still hear a lot of sounds, such as, motorcycles with, mufflers that are, tweaked to make them louder, or cars that are, tweaked to make them louder. There's generally not an enforced rule. Noise pollution doesn't seem to be a problem. Again, so when these individuals are driving and their vehicles are very loud, there's no police running around trying to say, hey, don't do that, here's your ticket, fix it. I've never seen it. If it happens, I've never seen it. I will say this, even though I'm telling you this stuff, none of this stuff will make me want to ever leave Costa Rica. So if you want to learn more about moving and living in Costa Rica, I want you to check out these 2 videos right here, and I will see you on the other side.